struggling to move your nonprofit forward? You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Nonprofit Architect, where we are giving you the actionable steps you need to launch and grow your nonprofit organization. Now, here's your host, Travis Johnson.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm sitting here today with Tamara Wright of Community Solutions and Built for Zero. How are you doing, Tamara?
Doing great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. The sun is shining behind the gray clouds, I'm assuming. Day is going great. I'm upright on the right side of the dirt, having a great conversation with you today. I'm so excited. Where are you located, Tamara?
I'm in beautiful, sunny Phoenix, Arizona.
Sunny Phoenix, Arizona. The Phoenix proper, or are you in like Scottsdale, Tempe, Mesa?
Phoenix proper. I'm in Midtown in a very popular historic district called Coronado.
Sounds swanky. The only Coronado I know of is down in San Diego. All the rich people live there.
It didn't used to be swanky, but the housing market has made it more swanky.
Oh, is Phoenix going through that gentrification process?
Big time. Big time. Our housing value has doubled since we've lived here, and it's only been 4 years.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oklahoma City is going through a boom right now. Houses are being put on the market and being bid and agreed upon the same day in the Oklahoma City market. So I'm not interested in selling my house, but we have so many people call us like, oh, what would you let your house go for? I was like, oh, I'd let it go for $250,000. And they're like, wow, really? Yeah, it's more than $100 over value, but I'm not really interested. But if you're going to give me that much, I'll move. But Community Solutions and Built for Zero are all about ending homelessness. They're all about housing, getting people in the places they need to be in, whether it's creating new homes, getting in existing homes, or setting up ways for them to stay in their home even when they're struggling, which is so cool. I didn't know this thing was a thing until I read Upstream by Dan Heath, which is such a fabulous book. Those of you in the nonprofit world that are listening, which I think are all of my listeners, I think there's only a few people just in love with my voice. The rest are here for the actual content. But, there's so many times you can hop in the river and pull someone out that's drowning. But if you go upstream and you can figure out why it is that they're falling in the river in the first place, and you fix that, even though it's a little less sexy and less fulfilling, it's a little bit different kind of feeling. You actually are solving the problem, which is so cool. So give us a little rundown about Community Solutions and Built for Zero.
Sure. So Community Solutions and Built for Zero, first of all, Community Solutions is a not-for-profit, and our mission is to measurably reduce and end homelessness, leaving nobody behind, and making sure that we have a racially equitable system in place so we can make sure that there's no disparities in our systems, that we're housing people at the same rate. No matter what race, gender, ethnicity they are, they all have equal access to housing.
I love it. I heard about this. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was a thing like 10 years ago because I'm in Oklahoma City, and Norman, Oklahoma has been at functional zero for like a decade, which is where the University of Oklahoma is. But the name functional zero is an interesting topic. What does functional zero mean?
In its essence, it really means that we're able to house more people than are entering the homelessness system. So meaning that we have enough housing supply to house people as quickly as possible, and nobody's languishing in the trauma of homelessness for very long. And so our mission is to really try to get housing placements as quickly as possible for everybody. And it's really about the community kind of working together. It's not just us coming in and being like, this is how you do it. It's more of like the community coming together, everybody that has their piece of the puzzle, everybody that has their tool in the toolbox, and we're prioritizing, we're working on it together. We're working from a list together of prioritized people, and we're housing them as quickly as possible as a community rather than my agency, my program, my client. It's our neighbors, our community, and our problem to solve.
Oh, absolutely. I talk to so many organizations and industries and different things, all different sectors. Veterans are usually one that I end up with. Foster care is near to my heart. Homelessness is interesting. But they have all these programs throughout a city, throughout a metro area, throughout a state, but they don't really work together most of the time. They kind of just do their own thing. And that was one of the big problems with the VA many years ago is there was no interdepartmental collaboration. There wasn't information sharing. There wasn't a process flow through the departments. And it's the same kind of thing with organizations in the nonprofit world. I interviewed Candace Leozu from Foster 360. She's out of Mesa, Arizona, right in your backyard. And she really wanted to get in and help foster kids aging out of the foster care system. And what she found, and I imagine this was you all found as well, is that there's all these organizations working on it, but they're not working together. So she created really a navigation system and created person-to-person mentorship, right? People aging out of foster care. Like I was in foster care, stunk most of the time, but she's creating this thing where one individual is going to help you navigate through all the different programs. And you guys aren't quite the same. It's a little bit different, but you're working with multiple organizations to include nonprofit, for-profit businesses, and really the community at large. One of my favorite parts about the book is when they talk about that they're not just talking about the homeless numbers, but you're referring to them as Pete, Jack, Sandy. Like, hey, have you guys seen Pete today? Oh, I saw Pete on Friday. He's still around. He's not interested in housing yet, whatever the thing is. Like, what do those conversations look like? How do you start that conversation in the community? And what does that look like when it's actually up and running?
Before Built for Zero was created, there was a 100,000 homes campaign that was created, and Phoenix was an early adopter of that mission as well. And through that, they created Project H3 Vets, which really meant home, hope, and health. And I'm not sure if that's the correct order, but it was those three words in some order. And it basically just meant that we were going to work together to make sure every veteran had a home, they had hope, and they had their health. And we're going to coordinate. And what came out of that idea was the Housing Navigator idea. And the city of Phoenix funded this idea. And basically it was people that are going to navigate veterans who are experiencing homelessness through the system, whether that's coming to the VA to get benefits and then going to the PHA and making sure that we can get those vouchers available to them in a quick manner, getting housing inspections and doing all of these things and trying to make it as efficient as possible. Because we noticed with tracking our data, Community Solutions is very big on data. And a lot of people in nonprofit world know this, that we were using a lot of this data at first for just reporting and compliance. We weren't using it to look and actually see what was happening in our system in real time. And that's really where Community Solutions came in and was like, we have all this data. Why aren't we using it to improve our system and see how it's actually working? Follow people through when they're engaged to when they're housed. How long did that take? Can we shorten it? What's the holdup? And it's really just kind of asking those questions over and over again. One of the reasons why I love working for Community Solutions so much is because you can almost have a childlike curiosity through the improvement model, which is what we use. And really, it's just like you're a kid, why? Asking that question over and over again. Like, why is this taking more than 90 days? Why can't we get them in housing? And why can't we get it inspected faster? Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? And just kind of, pushing against those barriers over and over again until we can get that down to like maybe less than 90 days. And can we get it to 60 days? Can we get it to 30 days? And that way people aren't experiencing this traumatic experience, which is homelessness. It's very traumatic. It's something that nobody should have to go through, especially not more than once. And so it's working together to make sure that people not only get housed, but remain housed, which I think is one of the most important pieces, because a lot of the people that we were serving have been cycling through this system over and over since they were children. And a very large proportion were people that were in foster care as well. So all these systems that kind of intermingle really should be working together and solving this problem together, because it's all the same clients that we're working with, the same kind of people.
Yeah, it's interesting. But, before Community Solutions was taking part of this thing, you would have someone like social worker, and then you would go see someone dealing with foster care. And then you might talk to someone at the local homeless alliance or whatever that might be called in your area. But they were never talking to each other. So does Community Solutions come in to an area, or to how does Community Solutions get involved? Does the mayor of a city call up and say hey, we need help? What is there, a hotline? How does this work?
Usually somebody will reach out through our website. We have joinbuiltforzero.org. And if you go through the website and it says you want to join, you can join through, and Somebody will direct you to a coach, and then we will figure out how to get you onboarded if we're accepting new communities at that point, because we do have limited staff and have to make sure that you get the coaching and the support that you need. So we're not just accepting every community. There has to be some sort of test in place. And so we do want people that are going to have that shared aim, that want to really drive reductions, that want to work to end homelessness and not just keep responding to it over and over again. We want people to work towards a by name list. We want people to have a command center. And what we mean by command center is just your different community members all coming together. So for veterans, it would probably be your VA medical center. It would be your PHA. It would be any mission-driven landlords that are accepting vouchers. It would be your cities. It could be your SSVF providers, which is the Supportive Services for Veteran Families grant through the VA, that's rapid rehousing, and also your GPD providers. You want to have all the people that focus on that particular population in the same room together, coming up with a plan together. And in that room, you're looking at your data, you're analyzing it, you're seeing how many housing placements, what your inflow was, what your outflow was, where people were going, where people are in the system. We also do case conferencing. So we go through our by name list, everybody that we know experiencing homelessness in our community. We have a prioritization. Right now it's the VI SPDAT, but there's some controversy around that one because it seems that we're yielding a lot of disparate results when it comes to racial equity and people that are being placed in housing. So we're in the process of trying to figure out how do we revamp that, or do we do more layered assessment. But usually you will take the most vulnerable people, the people that have a disabling condition, that have these severe health issues. They're the ones that are prioritized first to get into housing. And then you just brainstorm together. Okay, can we get him a HUD voucher? Oh, he's not eligible for that. Can we do a COC voucher? And you just kind of brainstorm around how to get that person to the appropriate resource.
That's so cool. People don't get into nonprofits for things like admin and fundraising. They get in for programs because they want to help whatever group of people or the environment or animals or whatever their cause is. They're wanting to help and actually do something. So it's nice to talk to the people that actually get to do something and then aren't worried about their name only being in lights, because the people that are worried about that are those that don't collaborate and work together. When I do nonprofit work, when I've been involved in a few nonprofits, there was some that were very interested and accepted of working towards completing the project and getting the systems in place so the problem vanishes. Basically, they're interested in creating a place where they no longer have that job to do anymore. And there's some that are just really not interested in that at all. They like to be the hero to swoop in and rescue people, or they don't think there's some kind of collaborative effort that they can do to solve the problem, actually. And it's very interesting to see the people that have the different mindset of looking at the problem in a way that can be addressed permanently, can be addressed collectively, or that just is accepted as it's always going to be here. And to know that you guys have these processes, procedures, vouchers, all of this in place to actually address homelessness and what it looks like is amazing. I know in Canada, their first step of any problem is to get someone into a residence, because once they have a house, they can start working on their health. They can start working on their job. They can start working on all these other things. But housing is the first and main priority.
It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The very basic bottom need is shelter. You need to feel safe in order to do anything. Otherwise, your brain is just under that stress, fight or flight setting, I guess you would say. And you can't really do things that you could normally do. I heard a story one time, and I couldn't even imagine this happening to me. But if I was experiencing homelessness and somebody gave me like 6 pages of landlords to go talk to and a bus pass, I would be like, I would be so overwhelmed. I wouldn't even be able to do it. Like, I'm supposed to navigate this bus system and go talk to landlords without having showered, or like, you know what I mean? And so that's why we really focus on that navigation piece, making sure that people are being taken care of and they're being handed off like very warmly to the landlord, and having a conversation with a case manager, somebody that's going to help talk you through these things. Because when you're under that amount of stress, it's just from my like empathy overload, I couldn't do that to somebody. Like, that's just so stressful. So it feels good to actually be there, and we actually see the progress, because we do a lot of data, a lot of measurement, a lot of run charts. And we can actually see, okay, we've housed way more people this month. What changed? How are we able to house this many people? What happened? And you can usually tell, oh, that's because this place opened up and we needed to fill them up really quick. Oh, okay. So that's kind of like something that's kind of an outlier and won't be going forward. But we really like pinpoint in our data where exactly things are happening in order to really drive some system level reductions and make sure that people have a safe place to call home, which is really what this is all about. I mean, we do a lot of data and a lot of research, but really at the end of the day, it's about search and rescue, getting people into housing.
Yeah. I know so many nonprofits that are doing great things, but they have no idea what their data even is. They don't know how many people they've talked to. They don't know how many people are in their email system, or if they even have a email system. Many don't have a CRM, customer resource management tool to track all the people they've talked to. And then most of them don't have any kind of program management like Trello or ClickUp or one of the other bazillion options out there to even know what they're doing or what to track. Like, how do you even determine what you need to track, or what do you guys track?
We started tracking inflow and outflow and just our current actively homeless list. So we have, for Phoenix, for example, we have chronic, we have veteran, we have families, and we have youth. Youth and families don't meet what Community Solutions calls quality data just yet, because they've only been entering for a couple months and they need at least 3 months. And then we also want to put in some racial equity scorecard questions in there to make sure that we're assessing how many people that we're actually seeing and how many people have access to the system. Because we did notice, using Phoenix as an example, that even though Native Americans are 2 times likely to experience homelessness in Maricopa County, they were making up very, very little of our coordinated entry system. And so we really wanted to figure out, okay, why is that? Why are Native Americans not able to access our coordinated entry? And so that's something we're looking at right now. Can we open an access point that's much easier for Native Americans to access? And like looking at your data like that, like very nuanced, is something that is a little bit new. Because like I said before, most nonprofits before were just used to reporting their performance measures about their particular grants that they've been awarded and not looking at it as like, okay, we housed people, are they sustainable? How do we like lessen that length of time? They weren't really looking at that very nuanced parts that we look at. So we look at the length of time, and then we break down our inflow and our outflow. Our inflow includes new inflow, so people that are brand new to homelessness, new to our system, people that may have returned that we've housed before and have come back. And then we look at people that went from inactive to active, which means we just can't find them anymore. They haven't accessed our system. In Phoenix, it's 30 days. If you haven't touched a single point in our system for 30 days, you go to inactive, but you're never removed. So if you come back, you just get switched to moved from inactive to active, moved from inactive to active, and it kind of goes back and forth. For outflow, we track housing placements and we track like self-resolved and things like that. And so basically what we're trying to do is make sure that our outflow is always more than our inflow, and trying to do both at the same time. So how do we stem inflow? How do we keep people in housing? And how do we get people housed much more quickly?
So what do you mean by inflow and outflow?
So inflow means people coming into our homelessness system. So they've lost their housing, their residence, and they're coming to either shelter or to 211 or another access point that's tracking all of this information. They're reaching out for help. That would be inflow. Outflow is, okay, they reached out for help, they came into our system, and now they've been placed into housing, or maybe they self-resolved, and that would be our outflow. They have now exited the system, and we monitor that every month.
I love that. So how many people has Community Solutions helped since their inception, and how many cities are in the Built for Zero program right now? We've
helped hundreds of thousands of individuals. I mean, just in 2013, I want to say, don't quote me on that year, but when they did the 100,000 homes campaign, they housed over 100,000 people experiencing chronic homelessness. And that was, almost 10 years ago. So just from then, we've helped a ton. We've served a ton of people. And then for the communities, I believe we're at 87, 88. It's growing. We're at 83. And we have 45 communities have achieved a measurable reduction in either chronic or veteran homelessness. And 80 of those communities have achieved quality real-time data. So that's Really good news. That means that their data is balanced, sort of like you balance a checkbook. Everything's making sense.
Well, that's important. You mentioned vouchers a few times. Well, talking about, you said something like a HUD voucher. You said landlords that accept vouchers. If I've got landlords listening to this and they don't know what you're talking about, how would you explain that program to them and how can they get involved?
They could get, so I don't know about Oklahoma, but I know in Phoenix, if they wanted to get involved, the first place that I would tell them to go is our contractor, Home Inc., HOMINC. They're the ones that run a lot of the voucher programs for Phoenix and Maricopa County. But for others, I would honestly just reach out on our website and see how you can get plugged in, because we can definitely figure out how landlords can do that in other areas. I would also say local public housing authorities would be who they would reach out to if they were interested in accepting HUD VASH or Section 8 vouchers. So the HUD VASH voucher is basically a Section 8 voucher, but it comes with VA case management attached. So they're going to get those supportive services for at least 2 years that they're in that program to help them really succeed and sustain in that housing. So I would reach out to either the VA or the PHA and say that you want to house veterans and you'd like to accept a HUD VASH voucher, and they'll be sure to get you to the right person, get you all set up. And please do that. It's guaranteed rent every month, which was actually something that was really needed during this pandemic, right? A lot of people weren't able to pay it immediately, but everybody that had a Section 8 voucher or a HUD VASH voucher, they had their rent paid.
You see, I love, those of you listening, I know I say this all the time, I love interviewing people. I always get to learn something cool I didn't know. And now I have that knowledge to where I can go help. I've got tons of friends and family in the real estate business and the landlord business, doing things at the VA. And now they have one more tool to help them do it better. People come and go from the military all the time. I'm still stationed at Tinker Air Force Base, just outside Oklahoma City. And they're like, oh, I want to move. I'm going to rent my house out. And if I can talk them into accepting HUD vouchers, then they have guaranteed rent the whole time they're away. And why wouldn't they want guaranteed rent? I want guaranteed rent.
Exactly. And they're getting case management services. So you know that they're getting support from somebody to help them be successful in that unit.
That's really cool. I did read that some cities are deciding to pay a month or two of rent to keep people in their home. Is that something you've heard as well?
Yes, I've heard that as well. And, a lot of funding came through with that COVID package. And so a lot of that is definitely going to be helping to get people into housing and also help people keep people in housing. So it's a lot of money. We're hoping that we're going to be able to be very targeted and strategic with that funding and make sure we can use every penny that we can and really not drop the ball here and end homelessness for as many people as possible. So yes, that's definitely happening. And then there's also the SSVF program. They have prevention as part of their program as well. So if somebody's a high risk, especially if somebody has been through the system before, that's definitely somebody that we want to target and reach and make sure that they stay in that housing and that they continue to be successful. And so reaching out to any SSVF providers, I know in Oklahoma City, one of them is Goodwill Industries of Oklahoma City. They're an SSVF provider. And I know that there's some in Southern Oklahoma too. And I'm trying to remember what the name of it was. It started with a K.
I don't know. We're in all 50 states and 56 countries. So you'll have to look for your own local resources. What's the best way to kind of find this stuff? Like if you go into Google, what words do you need to put in to find the things that we're talking about?
You can probably just Google, if I wanted to find it in Phoenix, that would be Phoenix SSVF. And then I would see, US Vets would pop up, CVI would pop up, UMOM would pop up. They're all the grantees that have SSVF funding. And then again, if you wanted to join and receive some Section 8 vouchers or HUD VASH vouchers, that would be your local public housing authority. And so you would just enter that into Google. So, Oklahoma City Public Housing Authority, and you can get some information there.
Catch me up on this acronym. Were you saying SSVF?
Yes, sorry. Supportive Services for Veteran Families, SSVF.
Supportive Services for Veteran Families. See, this is all sorts of new stuff I never heard about. As many, was there like 1.5 million-ish nonprofits in the U.S., and everyone's doing something just a little bit differently, and everyone's using different programs, and not everyone has the resources. And that's one of the main reasons this show was started, because people don't have the resources they need to do nonprofit work the way they need to. we here at the Nonprofit Architect are doing this so we can help the helpers, because the next person you help might be the future me coming up from these programs, growing up in the foster care system, receiving all sorts of state assistance. And it doesn't have to be that way. And if we can keep people housed like our friends at Community Solutions are doing, that's the first step to getting happier, healthier.
Absolutely. And we actually have a lot of people with lived experience working in Phoenix. And the people with lived experience, like especially at CBI, Community Bridges is a specific nonprofit here, and they really focus on hiring people that they've searched and rescued themselves, and then they kind of pay it forward and continue to do that. I mentioned them in particular because there is such a passion that comes from like that mindset, especially with veterans, no soldier left behind. And that's really how they feel. They really feel like they're trying to go out there and get their soldiers from the ruin, from, everything that's happened to them. And they really feel like it's a search and rescue mission. And having that lived experience just makes it even more personal to them, and they can relate to them on a different level. And I thought that was so important. And so I'd really encourage nonprofits to really look at the people that they've actually served and see how you can hire them and help to pay it forward and have them be on your staff.
Yeah, there's nothing like that firsthand experience to help you get doing what you're doing and do it better.
Right. And you might know this too, but like veterans rely on each other a lot and trust each other a lot more than they trust a civilian. So if a veteran's coming up to another veteran and saying, hey, I got housed through this program and it really worked for me, I know it can work for you, that's something that might be able to like reach them in a little different way than perhaps I could,
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah, there's so many veterans out there right now that think that if they're receiving services, that means that someone else is not receiving services. And that's just not the way it is, especially through the VA. If you've served this country and you are not currently collecting benefits, you have earned them by your service, period. That's all you need to know. No one else is going to lose benefits because you're accepting benefits. And in some cases, they give you back pay. So it might be like winning the stinking lottery if you go sign up for this stuff. I had a friend of mine that's been out for a few years and he's not getting VA services. I was like, look, if you get a certain disability rating, that might be worth, I don't know, $2,000 a month for the rest of your life. He's like, I'm 40. Is like, well, let's say you live to be 100. Are you willing to give up $24,000 a year for 60 years just because you won't make a VA appointment? He's like, oh, when you put it that way. So every 4 years, you're getting essentially $100,000 times 15 to make 60 years. That's $1.6 million you're throwing down the tubes just because you won't make a VA appointment. And I'm not okay with that. Go get the services that you've earned, that people are fighting for. People dedicate their lives to getting this legislation passed just so that money is there to help you because they care about you. I care about you. And I know Tamara cares about you too. So Tamara, where can we get a hold of you?
Sure. They can call me at 602-622-8140, or you can email me it's twright@community.solutions. So TWRIGHT@community.solutions. And there's no .org or .edu or anything. It's just community.solutions. I know that that's confusing to some folks. It was confusing to me at first.
Yeah. Now that you don't have to have a .com, .gov, .mil, or .org, you have whatever the heck you want to put on the back half of that. So
right.
twright@community.solutions.
Yes. And I'm happy to talk with anyone.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Tamara. We love all the things you're doing with Community Solutions and Built for Zero. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to The Nonprofit Architect. To listen to all our past shows, visit http://nonprofitarchitect.org. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Thank you.